I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Stephen Ward, CEO of VyFinance. Stephen, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to come on today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Let's dive into the world of DeFi, but more specifically, DeFi and finance in the Cardano ecosystem, which is huge up-and-coming potential. I know a few of my smart friends that are already involved in it, but I feel like the mainstream really hasn't touched into it yet compared to at least in Ethereum and some of the main DeFi ecosystems. So let's start off our conversation, Stephen, by hearing a little bit about the specifics in VyFinance and why your team I think this is a good idea for DeFi on Cardano, and then we'll jump into the details after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, let's start with why we thought it was a good idea to launch on Cardano. You know, that's a good place to begin. Cardano is an up-and-coming blockchain, so there isn't a whole heap or a whole host of programs on there yet. So we kind of saw an opportunity with a bit of an open market there to be able to insert ourselves and, you know, give utility which might have otherwise been lost on other blockchains. We are doing a few, world firsts, but we'll talk about that coming soon. And we didn't want them to be ignored or forgotten about because we're so covered with other projects on like Ethereum or on Avalanche or on any of the others. So it was really to give ourselves a point of difference, as well as to access more remote markets. Cardano is really focused on, third world, second world, up and coming Africa, South America, those sort of areas there. My background is in finance. I did spend a period as a financial advisor, in fact, as well, but mostly dealing in investments, right? And having come from investments, I know personally the damage that there is within this system and funneling all the money through to the top end of town, essentially. Yeah, exactly. So, and you've been, dealing with people in finance for a while as well. I'm sure you're quite aware.
Definitely.
So I saw Cardano as the perfect opportunity to sort of push these powerful tools to those that need it most, right? And I wanted to be part of that change. Great point, Stephen. And you're right. I've been following the Cardano ecosystem in terms of their developments in emerging economies as well. And I feel like Africa is one of those that's going to come from the bottom up to the top and sort of skip all of that middle infrastructure that was needed for the archaic internet and move straight into decentralized finance and financial inclusion for those who need it most, for those who don't have access to the traditional financial systems, and hopefully they don't need to get access to it because this is going to be even better. And that's exactly it.
Yeah. So with that said, maybe you can talk a little bit more about VyFinance as a product and as a platform and what makes it different and how people that are looking for financial inclusion can capitalize on those products.
Yeah, absolutely. So VyFinance is a suite or an ecosystem, really. It's not just any one product. We're launching a DEX fairly soon. So we're looking for that around May. That DEX is going to be a DEX in the classic sense. So we're going to have swaps, we're going to have farms, it's a DEX, swaps and farms. We are also going to include a bar. Now, have you ever heard of Sushi Swap?
Yes.
Yes. So Sushi Swap used to have their bar, but they actually did away with it. But that bar was essentially a distributive mechanism to allow a percentage of every swap that takes place is converted into VyFi, and then that VyFi is distributed to those that are keeping their VyFi at the bar. Now, what we've done to kind of expand our ecosystem, and that was the core of the idea, right, is that we've got this bar which is distributing income from our DEX, but we want to be able to expand that bar so we can give more upwards pressure to our token, right? Because the more VyFi that we're distributing, the more we're purchasing, the more upwards pressure we have. So from there, we added in, or we're constructing an auto harvester. Do you know what an auto harvester is?
I think so, but I feel like we should definitely explain it for the audience.
Absolutely. I was going to say. So an auto harvester is similar. Well, an existing platform would be, as an example, would be Yearn. So they're a current auto harvester. Essentially, they are where you get a strategy on the blockchain or a strategy in the world of decentralization, such as I will do 50% DAI, 50% Ethereum, right? And then we'll put that into liquidity pools for you. Users who then don't know how to manage the funds themselves across the blockchain are then, rather than having to manage themselves on a DEX, are able to just engage with that auto harvester, where they place their crypto into the auto harvester. We then take that and manage it on the blockchain for them and then distribute back to them the income that's earned.
Wow.
Now, this is where we've actually got our world first. We're doing something really rather different with our auto harvester. The way that most auto harvesters work now, all auto harvesters work now, not most, sorry, is they are set strategies. So someone, as the example that I just used, would have a strategy of an Ethereum DAI strategy, right? In our example, in our system, we're generating or building a neural net. Now, a neural net is an advanced form of AI, which essentially teaches itself the most optimal way to perform tasks. So it's used, a great example of it would be Watson, actually. Watson, who also was on Sale of the Century? It might have been, I can't remember which show. I think it was Sale of the Century, actually. But Watson essentially teaches itself how to identify cancers in medical patients, right? And then it looks at millions and millions and millions and millions of scans so that it can find the optimal situation which represents cancer based on those scans, right? We're going to be doing that for yield farming. So we're essentially building a neural net which teaches itself the optimal situation to place your funds to be able to optimize yield farming.
Wow.
Now, we're stratifying this into a high risk, a medium risk, low risk, and stablecoin. So we've going to have 4 separate risk levels. What makes this system so different to all the other auto harvesters that exist is that it is actually self-managing. In other words, it's not a static strategy. In the case of an Ethereum DAI pool, you're always dealing with Ethereum DAI. If you were in a Curve BUSD pool, you're always dealing with Curve BUSD. Our neural net's going to be analyzing the market and adjusting the positions in those pools real time based on current market conditions to optimize those risk levels based on what the risk the user wants to engage with, right? In that way, we're hoping to make the system safer and more consistent rather than having to rely on just a set strategy that's been created in the past.
Definitely. Very cool.
Now, most importantly, 15% of all the income that's made from the auto harvester gets distributed to our bar. So that means we're drawing in funds from across the Cardano ecosystem, taking 15% of them as the income from the auto harvester, converting them to VyFi, and then distributing to the holders of our token. So that's going to be creating a funnel where we're drawing in income from outside of the VyFi ecosystem and bringing it in, right? And that's really important. Most DEXs, and almost all DEXs, don't actually have any kind of funnel that brings in income from outside of their ecosystem. They're a closed loop, such as Pancake or such as Sushi Swap, such as I can go through lists for days. But yeah, we're trying to change that idea and turning it into rather a closed loop, turning it into an open loop, which accepts money from outside of itself. Incredible.
A lot of great points there. With the auto harvesting, with being able to move strategies. One thing I'm curious about with this, and because we're talking about the Cardano ecosystem, and a lot of people that are using Ethereum, using Ether as the main asset. In this case, are you using Cardano's ADA coin, or are you also using other digital assets, or are you also using VyFi? Like, what are the main assets that people would use?
We're principally going to be using ADA, and we're also going to be using the upcoming stablecoin on ADA called JED, which is being released by Coty. We actually announced our partnership with them just yesterday, I believe. Might have been the day before.
Amazing.
So, and JED's quite a large company. They're actually building their stablecoin in conjunction with IOHK. So we're kind of working with them now to try and figure out how exactly we're going to manage this.
That's incredible, because I feel like people are looking for stablecoin alternatives. I've heard a lot about in the Luna ecosystem, UST and how the economic models differ from, USDT and USDC, the one that most people are using, and it's actually way better. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing more stablecoins and just the growth of the ecosystem in the Cardano platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the reality is that stablecoins are really important to be able to manage a DeFi, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a safe option to be able to move your funds into a stable situation, the second stuff starts moving quickly, a lot of people panic and get out. So one of the most important things to stabilize DeFi as a whole is the option of a stablecoin, where you can quickly move your funds into something that's stable. Without that, DeFi doesn't function properly, right? Because you're always going to have these, well, not always, hopefully it does come down at some point in the future as the markets mature, but you are going to regularly have these swings that as a, an everyday user, not a large end investor, might not necessarily be comfortable for you.
Definitely. Yeah.
Now there is still one other part. Well, there's two other parts to our project actually. First, we've also got an NFT project that's that we've launched. Okay. Now our NFT, we actually won an award for the most utile NFT of 2021 from the CNFT Awards. So there was an awards for all NFTs on Cardano, and we were able to get one of the six. There were six. What are they called? Six awards that were given out. We won one of them. 6 categories. That's the word. And cool. From this, we actually allow users to farm using our NFT. So we were the first stakeable NFT on Cardano. And in doing this, we were able to really sort of give users an early option to engage with some DeFi-like tools prior to DeFi being properly launched on Cardano, which has been something that I'm very proud of.
Incredible. Amazing.
And then the last one, I should also add, 6% of all the royalties from our NFT are going to be distributed to our bar. And so far, there's been a total throughput of 860 or 870,000 ADA purchased on our NFT. Wow. So it is in the top 50 NFTs in terms of volume on all of Cardano. And the floor on that is about 1,200 ADA. So, they're not a low-end NFT, so it isn't necessarily easy for people to engage. And it is for this reason that we're releasing a smaller one, like a cheaper one, to allow more people to engage in the next few months. And again, all 6% of all the royalties from that, so half of the royalties from that, are going to be distributed to our bar. So everything that our business is doing is attempting to essentially deliver income to our distributive mechanism to continue building that upwards pressure on our token and to allow the users who hold our token to share in the income that's generated.
Definitely. Yeah, that sounds like a great economic system that your team has built out. I think it's very important for a governance token or a utility token of a DeFi platform, where often, if people are getting a high APY of a newer token, they're incentivized to dump it because the price might go down. They don't really know. So from what I understand, with the bar, with VyFi holders that are also participating in the ecosystem are incentivized to hold it for longer, as your economic model is going to be burning and raising the floor price of VyFi.
That's exactly it, right? So essentially we're trying to turn our token into a deflationary token because we're perpetually drawing income, pushing it in, and then delivering that income out to the users. So that means by holding VyFi, you'll have a natural rate of increase in the amount of VyFi you hold. Or you'll have the option to do so by staking it up.
Very cool. And do people only stake it on VyFi.io, or how can they get involved in the platform? Well,
actually, on as of 2 weeks' time, Mintswap, which is an upcoming DEX on Cardano, is launching a VyFi ADA farm. So very soon, you're going to be able to provide VyFi and ADA to the Mintswap DEX and farm Min, which isn't even our token, which is really cool to me. I can't believe that our token is going to be able to farm another token. Awesome. But you can also use VyFi to farm tokens natively on our app right now. So we've actually got token vaults where you can deposit VyFi and you can earn VyFi, Cardax, Flick. I'm definitely forgetting one or two. You can go to app.vyfi.io and you can see all of our staking options. Of course, it is flat staking. It's not pools, so the returns aren't, the 300% APY. We've got returns between 20 and 30%. But that's still compared, on the Cardano ecosystem, that's still very high compared to a lot of other pretty much any other project that's around.
Definitely, and definitely compared to banks and traditional finance, you're astronomically higher as well. People
Yes.
need to be cautious about those high returns over 100% APY. You really have to be focused on your position and make sure that it's either everyone's going to get into it and it's going to go down, or it's too good to be true.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And in fact, I've started calling those massive APYs, you see like 350%, 300, 400%. I've started calling them marketing APYs because they're really completely non-representative of what you're receiving.
Yeah. And well, this all sounds great, Stephen.
In fact,
I was just going to ask you about the Cardano ecosystem. And, as you said, you're really bringing something different and expanding the ecosystem. And it sounds like the stablecoin is coming soon. And a lot of people don't know or aren't using DeFi on Cardano yet. Are you expecting others to follow along and continue growing up the ecosystem behind you? And is this really early stage for people that are looking for a new, better DeFi ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it is still very early stages. So in Cardano, we have to deal with building the blockchain in a totally new language, Plutus, which is based on Haskell, which is in terms compared to Solidity, it's like going from, English to Arabic. It's just totally different. Now, as a result of that, we've had to design a lot of new things from the bottom up. And that takes a lot of time. A lot of these things aren't open source yet, which means they haven't become available to the general public. Or as I should say, the general public that is developers. Because, as an average everyday person, you're probably not going to be going to to be pulling GitHub repos.
Yeah.
So we're actually working with the Cardano DeFi Alliance, which is an alliance of about 10 to 15, 12 projects, I believe now, where we're getting together and we're based on the research and the construction that we've done. We're trying to work out how we're going to open source it, how we're going to get this out to developers, and how we're going to create the educational material so that developers are able to start developing without the assistance of, well, I'm not going to say the assistance of IOHK, I should say in a manner that's more accessible to the average developer. Because at the moment, it's still very difficult to approach.
Definitely. Well, it's
now I should add,
go ahead.
There are advantages to the actual design that they have. So the language itself is a lot safer. It's a lot more mathematically sound than Solidity. I won't go through the technicalities, but it is a lot harder to do a rug pull, for example, on Cardano. It's a lot harder to hack the system or hack a smart contract on Cardano, purely because there are, as simply as I can put it, the smart contracts have requirements that have to be met prior to the execution of the smart contract. Whereas in Solidity, the actual requisites are checked after you execute the transaction. So that's the biggest functional difference.
Interesting. That's great to know. Well, it sounds like you guys really have figured it out so far, and it does sound like it's very early on. I feel like people should at least go and take a look at the differences and understand why it's better, and maybe get involved when it's early on here. For the people that want to learn more about the education of it, just about the Cardano ecosystem, and about how to get involved in VyFi, what is the best way for them to get involved, Stephen?
Absolutely. First, head on over to our website, vyfi.io. From there, you can check out our app, there's already some portions of it live, so you can go have a look at the actual system, how it looks. Join us on Telegram, VyFi Official. Follow us on Twitter. We release news at the moment at an incredible pace. We've had 2 partnerships and a farm announcement in the last 3 days. So there's a lot going on across the entire Cardano ecosystem. And come and ask some questions, say good day. We're not biting anyone. We want to talk. We want to engage.
Amazing. I will leave all those links as well in the description box below. Thank you so much, Stephen, for coming on the show. All the best with VyFi and the growth of DeFi on Cardano. I'm really looking forward to following along and seeing how everything goes. Let's follow up in the near future after all of these updates come in and as we continue to grow. Absolutely. And also just one very last thing. We are going to launch the first on-chain governance on Cardano by the end of this month. So it's going to be a first for the Cardano blockchain to actually have a system of governance managed on-chain. So that's an exciting first that we have coming up soon. Very cool. All great things. Thank you so much again. I really do appreciate you taking the time, and let's follow up.
Thanks so much for having me, Ashton. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to talk again.